Ever heard of a get-rich-quick scheme that promises high returns with little risk? Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, in the early 20th century, one man took that fantasy and turned it into a financial empire, Charles Ponzi. But before you start thinking about jumping into the next hot investment opportunity, let's talk about how this genius scam artist turned greed and ambition into a multi-million-dollar fraud that still haunts us today. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well for Ponzi, but it did leave us with a lesson we'll never forget. Let's talk about the man of the hour, Charles Ponzi, an Italian immigrant who arrived in the United States in the early 20th century, is best known for giving his name to one of the most notorious financial scams in history, the Ponzi scheme. Born in 1882 in Lugo, Italy, Ponzi was ambitious and sought opportunities that would lead him to wealth. After moving to America in 1903, he initially struggled to find his footing, taking on various jobs, including working as a waiter and a clerk. However, it was his involvement in a series of dubious financial ventures that ultimately led to his infamous legacy. The concept of a Ponzi scheme revolves around the promise of high returns on investments, which are paid to earlier investors using the capital from newer investors, rather than from profit earned by the operation of a legitimate business. This creates an illusion of a profitable enterprise, enticing more people to invest, while the scheme is unsustainable in the long run. Ponzi's scheme, which he launched in the 1920s, promised investors a 50% return within just 45 days, leveraging international postal reply coupons as a supposed investment vehicle. The allure of quick riches captivated many, leading to a massive influx of funds. However, as with all Ponzi schemes, the operation eventually collapsed when Ponzi could no longer recruit enough new investors to pay returns to earlier ones. This led to his arrest in 1920 and a prison sentence, but the damage was done, with thousands of investors losing their life savings. The historical significance of Ponzi schemes extends beyond Ponzi himself. They serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed and the allure of easy money. Financial scams like Ponzi's have evolved over the years, yet they continue to resonate in today's world, reminding us of the importance of due diligence and skepticism in investment opportunities. As we delve deeper into the life of Charles Ponzi and the mechanics of his scheme, we will explore not only the man behind the name, but also the broader implications of financial fraud in society. Join us as we uncover the fascinating story of Charles Ponzi, a tale that intertwines ambition, deception, and the timeless lessons of financial prudence. Here's where it gets interesting. Ponzi, ever the dreamer, noticed a discrepancy in international postal reply coupons. You see, these coupons were used for people to reply to international mail in various countries. Ponzi thought, why not buy these cheap in countries where they're undervalued and redeem them for higher prices in the US? Genius, right? Well, not exactly. It sounded great in theory, but Ponzi couldn't quite make the numbers work. Instead of doing the honest hard work, he created an illusion. Ponzi's pitch was that he could provide high returns. We're talking 50% in 45 days. Sounds like a good deal, huh? What Ponzi was really doing was using new investors' money to pay the earlier investors their so-called returns. The scheme snowballed, and Ponzi became the darling of Boston's financial scene, all while he had no real business at all. It was showmanship at its best. Think of it like a reverse magic trick. All those pretty returns were actually just money from new people, not actual profits from a business. Soon, Ponzi was living large, purchasing cars, homes, and expensive clothes. No wonder he thought he could pull this off forever. Why did this all work so well? Psychology, baby. Humans have an innate desire for instant gratification. The desire for wealth is real, and Ponzi played on that. Many investors were hooked by the promise of fast and high returns. When you're in a rush to make money, you stop asking the tough questions like, how is this even possible? Or what's the risk? Ponzi didn't just offer promises, he gave them a sense of urgency. Scammers love to make you feel like you're missing out, like the money train is leaving the station. The fear of loss aversion made people act quickly, wanting to avoid missing the boat on quick riches. If we look at today's world, we can see the same psychology at play in various types of scams. Cryptocurrency frauds and high-yield investment schemes promise investors unrealistic returns. The allure of being rich without doing the work, what could go wrong? Ponzi's scheme, with its high returns and low risk, was tailor-made for the investor who wanted it all without the hassle. And this psychological cocktail led to thousands of victims who lost their life savings. Ponzi wasn't just making money, he was living the dream, right? He was spending his ill-gotten gains on lavish cars, a grand mansion, and all the trimmings that come with pretending you're a successful businessman. As money poured in from new investors, Ponzi's life became more extravagant. Investors, convinced they were getting the deal of a lifetime, kept handing over their cash, and Ponzi was delivering. The returns flowed, the checks were handed out, and Ponzi looked like a financial genius. He could do no wrong, right? Well, this illusion was all about to come crashing down. At his peak, Ponzi's operation was taking in over $15 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's a staggering amount. Ponzi, who had once struggled to make ends meet, was now living the high life. But like all good things in the world of scams, it couldn't last forever. Ponzi's success was unsustainable because it was based entirely on new investors, not actual profits. When Ponzi's investors started to get suspicious about his business model, he knew it was time to disappear, but he couldn't. His scheme had become too big, too fast, and all the money was running out. Eventually, the math didn't add up. Ponzi's scheme had grown so big that it became impossible to sustain. The number of new investors slowed, and the money just wasn't coming in fast enough to pay those earlier investors. No new blood, no more returns. And that's when the Boston Post decided to look a little closer. Investigative journalists started picking apart Ponzi's claims, doing what investors should have done in the first place, asking questions. It didn't take long before Ponzi was exposed for what he truly was, a fraudster. The scheme collapsed in 1920, and Ponzi was arrested. It turned out he didn't have some secret international postal coupon scheme. He was just a very good con man. Oops. Thousands of investors lost everything: their savings, their homes, and their faith in the system. When Ponzi was arrested in 1920, the public was outraged. Thousands of people had been swindled, and they weren't about to let him slide. Ponzi was charged with fraud, and his trial became one of the most infamous in American history. Ponzi's defense: he claimed that he never meant to defraud anyone, but the evidence was overwhelming. In fact, the U.S. Postal Service got involved, since Ponzi had used the mail to advertise his scam. In 1920, Ponzi was convicted of mail fraud and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. He was also convicted in Massachusetts and sentenced to another 7 years. Ponzi had gone from rags to riches to rags. His brief stint as a financial mogul would end in a humiliating fall from grace. Fast forward to today, and the term Ponzi scheme has entered the cultural lexicon. It's used to describe any fraudulent scheme where money is paid to earlier investors using the funds from newer investors instead of from actual profits. Ponzi's name became synonymous with financial fraud, and his scam became the blueprint for future con artists. Ponzi's legacy, however, is not just in the name. The impact of his scheme redefined how we look at financial fraud. Scams continued to plague the economy for years to come, with the most infamous being Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors out of billions in the early 2000s. But even with these large-scale frauds, Ponzi's scheme was a game changer because it demonstrated the power of perception, the importance of trust in financial markets, and the lengths to which some will go to deceive others for personal gain. Let's be honest, Ponzi schemes are enticing. Easy money is an allure that we've all fallen for at one point or another. What makes people fall for these scams? It's not just greed, it's psychology. Ponzi knew that by appealing to our desire for quick wealth, he could cloud our judgment. When people are offered a deal that sounds too good to be true, they often ignore red flags. How is this even possible? And is this too good to be true? And get swept up in the dream of financial freedom. Loss aversion is another key psychological factor. We hate losing money, and Ponzi preyed on that by creating the illusion that you'd miss out if you didn't get in now. Charles Ponzi's story is still used in financial education as a cautionary tale. Investing is risky. There's no magic formula that guarantees you'll get rich overnight. Ponzi's rise and fall helped shape modern financial regulations, encouraging stronger oversight of financial institutions. His case taught us that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Today, regulatory bodies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, ensure that investors have transparency and protections in place to safeguard against these kinds of schemes. Ponzi's name is immortalized in the world of fraud, but his legacy isn't all about criminality. It's about the lessons we learn from his mistakes. In an era where social media and cryptocurrency have created a whole new breeding ground for scams, Ponzi's scheme still serves as a reminder that if something seems too easy, it probably is. It reminds us that education and vigilance are our greatest tools when navigating the often murky waters of financial opportunities. So let Ponzi's story remind you: invest wisely, stay skeptical, and don't fall for the illusion of get-rich-quick schemes. Your wealth will be much safer that way. Throughout the video, we emphasized the critical lessons learned from Charles Ponzi's story. One of the most important takeaways is the necessity for individuals to remain vigilant against financial scams. The allure of quick riches can often cloud judgment, making it essential to approach investment opportunities with skepticism and due diligence. By understanding the warning signs of potential fraud and being aware of the tactics used by scammers, viewers can better protect themselves and their finances. Ponzi's rise and fall were epic, but so is the lesson we can learn from it. It's about recognizing the warning signs of a scam and understanding the psychological tricks that fraudsters use to prey on human weaknesses. The allure of fast money may always be there, but it's how we approach it that counts. So next time someone offers you a quick and easy route to riches, remember Ponzi's tale and think twice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and share this video to help others avoid falling for these schemes. Knowledge is power. And now you're armed with a history lesson and a heads up on how to keep your money safe. Catch you in the next one.